we talk a lot about narcissistic behaviors and gaslighting, manipulation, all the things. So, how great was it that I came across this interview with Coach Lorraine Lindsay and her guest, Cleavon Funches, on her YouTube page, where we can actually see narcissistic behavior in real time. Now, I'm not saying that this man is a narcissist because I honestly believe that a lot of the things that he said throughout this interview were not true or maybe partially true. But I definitely believe he is a master manipulator who is attention seeking. And those are two behaviors that we see a lot with narcissists. Now, as we go through and review the conversation that they're having, you're going to notice that a lot of their conversation is centered around gender biases, and they speak a lot on how men view the world, how women view the world, and how men and women react and respond. Now, me personally, I don't think that this conversation has anything to do with gender biases, because with everything that they bring up, every piece of the conversation that they bring up, you could easily switch out the man for the woman and the woman for the man. The conversation isn't necessarily gender specific. It's more of a conversation of poor communication skills and manipulation. So just as we go through this, just kind of push aside your gender war biases and focus on the root causes of the dysfunction that they bring up. So, with this being said, uh, this video has gone pretty viral over the last few weeks, and most of the people who are speaking on it are centering the conversation around the gender perspective, but I want us to focus more on the behavioral and psychological aspects from both the host and her guest. So let's just get into this, and we hopefully will learn something today.
And when we fall, we can go through depression and self doubt and all of things. And I understand that and I empathize with that 100%.
Mm.
But when you say you need support,
So no sympathy, empathy.
well, empathy meaning I can relate.
I can
okay.
relate.
And when you're dealing with empathy, it's me relating to the pain. Okay. I can also be sympathetic in that as well.
Let's start with pointing out that there is a difference between sympathy and empathy. Now, I don't know if this is one of those moments where Mr. Funches is being manipulative, but I think it's possible because he does little things like this throughout the entire interview. Or if he's being genuine and not understanding the difference between empathy and sympathy. But the main difference between sympathy and empathy is how we experience and express emotions towards someone else's situation. So, sympathy is having compassion for someone and their situation, despite the fact that you may not have gone through that experience or an experience that's similar to it, but you can still show this person that you care about their feelings and emotions after watching what they have gone through. Whereas having empathy is having compassion because you have had the same or a very similar situation happen to you. So you understand completely how that person may be feeling in the moment when they're going through something hard. So that's the difference between sympathy and empathy. And he's asking for empathy, not realizing that for her to have empathy for his situation that he's going through, which I cut that part out because this interview was kind of long. I'll probably put a link to the full interview in the discussion board so that you guys can go back and watch the whole thing. But he brought up a situation that was very specific to him and his life. And she can have sympathy for him, but a lot of us, not just her, have never gone through a situation like that. So her having empathy for him in that situation is impossible. So let's move on.
That as well. Even if I don't relate, I can still have a nurturing way to say, I feel bad for this person. I feel that he's down. But my question for you is, what is the communication in this type of support that you need? And this is why.
I'm going to pause here too, also, and say that this question she asked him, what kind of support do you need, is something that is going to come up over and over and over and over again. And Mr. Funches never answers the question. He never explains to her what type of support he needs. He even goes as far as to try to gaslight her into thinking that he actually told her what kind of support he needs. But when I tell you, I've watched this interview so many times because I did not want to miss anything. Not once did he ever explain to her what type of support he thinks he may need for any situation that he brings up during this interview.
For some women, again, I'm only speaking because I am woman from behalf of on that, relating to women because I am woman, is that sometimes when we lend support.
And again, I'm going to stop it to say that put aside your gender biases, because if she were a man and he told her about the situation that he was going through, I don't know too many men who have actually had that experience before. I'm sure there are men out there, but if she in particular were a man, she's never had this experience. She cannot empathize with him in this moment. She can have sympathy for him and show that she cares that he's going through it and try to help him through it. But having empathy for him in this moment is not going to be possible, whether you're a man or a woman, because that situation that he brought up was very specific to his life and his experiences.
And we're there to support, it becomes a crutch for the man and he doesn't get up. It happens sometimes.
It does
The
happen.
support becomes it and nothing else. And so some men stay down. So my thing is, what for you as a man would get you to get up just for self? Forget about everybody else,
It
just for
depends on
self.
it depends on what I have to work for. I
Okay.
myself had my daughter with me 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
So the first time years ago when I was homeless, I had my son with me. So that was like my push.
Yeah.
I had him around me, so that was my push,
And
Cleavon's
I
push.
can respect that.
While I had my daughter around me, that was my push. I cannot fail, but then I kept falling deeper.
Now, I just want to stick a pin in this moment because what he just said is the foundation for what I'm assuming to be lies, manipulation, and some of his gaslighting towards Coach Lindsay throughout the video. It's almost as if he wants to use his children to feed his need for attention, sympathy, or even pity. And this is a very common behavior with narcissists. They will use people around them, especially their children who have absolutely no choice in the situation. They will use them to garner sympathy and attention for themselves. So what he's doing is trying to portray himself as being this really great guy who's caring and who will go the distance for the people around him. He's going to do whatever he can for his children. He wants the audience to know that he has somehow made all of these sacrifices, and despite him making these sacrifices later on down the line, it backfired on him. It's being thrown in his face. It's being used as something negative to portray him as this horrible human being, when in reality we should all know that he is an amazing person. But we're going to come back to this later on in the video because it's definitely a key point in pointing out his narcissistic behaviors.
fell, but then I kept falling deeper. And when men fall deeper, they get more angry and frustrated. It's not understood. People are like, oh, he's angry, he's this. Nobody understands when I actually fall.
Is it, may I ask you this question? Do you communicate how you're feeling? Do you allow yourself to be vulnerable enough to say, this is what I'm thinking and feeling? Because that's another
That
thing
can
too.
slap me in the face if I did it.
Well, then who's responsible for the choices you're making with your partnership that don't allow you to have a voice?
That goes back to some of us choose wrong.
Okay.
Because some of us choose immature people who should not be govern our emotions, should not be covering
I don't think anybody should be in charge of
No,
your
it's not
emotions.
about it being in charge. I'm saying that if you're my woman,
Yeah.
I should be able to come and have a conversation with you, a complicated conversation with you, regardless if you like it or not. But most people, not just woman or man, most people are mature or healed enough to even have certain conversations. So therefore, you got to shut down.
But that goes both ways. And let me tell you, I can give you a perfect example. I have seen it time and time out.
I just want to point out a couple of the contradictions that he just made. And they were so subtle and easy to miss. This is why we all need to learn how to actively listen. And that's one of the faults I'm going to bring up with Coach Lindsay. In this moment, this particular moment, it almost felt as if she wasn't actually listening to him. She was just waiting. Like she heard one little thing that he said and she harped on it and just waited for an opportunity to speak on it instead of listening to everything he said. So she missed a whole lot of the subtle little contradictions he made in that short little speech. She asked him if he ever allows himself to be vulnerable with anyone about his problems, to which he replies, "Oh, that could slap me in the face if I did." Which to me just means no. He could have simply said, "No, I don't open up to anyone." Yet he has no problem with talking about all of his issues here on this public platform. He speaks about being homeless with his children. Earlier in the interview, he spoke about some issues that he was having with his daughter. And then later on in the interview, he speaks about being essayed as a child. So he doesn't have an issue with being vulnerable. His issue seems to be with accepting the fact that he has to put in actual work to be able to overcome these issues that these negative experiences that he's had in his life. So what slaps him in the face isn't his vulnerability, but the fact that not everyone is going to join in on his pity party and help him blame the world for his problems. There are people in this world who are going to let you know that you need to take accountability and personal responsibility for the situations in your life, especially if you want those situations to get better. So instead of staying on the topic of his vulnerability, we see he quickly deflects the conversation and finds a way to project and place the blame onto other people. He starts off by saying that he chooses the wrong partners, which is, it makes it look like he's taken accountability for his life choices, but then he quickly alludes to his bad choice being their fault because this is who they are and not his fault for accepting them as they are and not walking away from what turned out to be a really toxic relationship. This pivot in conversation happened so suddenly that we could easily forget that we're talking about being vulnerable. Then he speaks about being able to have deeper conversation with a partner, then justifies shutting down when that conversation doesn't work out the way he planned it to work out. Shutting down is never a positive road to take when having a problem solving conversation. And it is never the fault of anyone involved except for the individual who decides to shut down and refuses to participate, especially when they are the ones who are demanding support and solutions.
I have
There we
seen it
go.
time and time. I've experienced it personally, where when you sit to communicate and express how you feel, right? The person doesn't necessarily like what you have to say. You may not like what I have to say, but that is truly what I am thinking and feeling
Okay.
right now. So, well, you're trying to be right. No, I'm not trying to be right. I am trying to be heard.
Have we become enemies at this point?
No, I'm just
Because
saying that.
sometimes you become enemies already, and I don't want to hear none of you got to say.
But how do you become enemies? Mostly when there's a breakdown in
Bitterness.
communication.
The bitterness with each other
But where does that come from?
within the individuals.
But why does it happen? It happens
Lack of trust.
most of the time. It starts with trust, a breakdown in love, or communication. And usually the communication is what goes first.
Yeah.
And if you are, as a man, going through things that make you feel down and depressed, and you are struggling because either you don't trust to communicate that to your partner, or you just pridefully don't communicate that, then that leaves the other person on the other end to guess what you need. And so when we say you want support, if you don't say what that support is, I'll go around blindly supporting you in ways that maybe you don't even want.
Which is true.
And that happens a lot.
A lot of times in communities that we're
He just did the same exact thing that Coach Lindsay did before. And we need to acknowledge that he's also not actively listening and participating in this conversation. He's merely waiting for opportunities to speak. And we see this because every time she tries to make a point, he's trying to jump in to say something. So if you are trying to jump into a conversation to say something, you are not hearing what the other person is saying. And the two of them do this quite a bit throughout this conversation. So just keep an eye out for that also.
in communities that we're raised in. Remember, I learned that from you. Communities that we're raised in don't teach us how to find the right line of communication or the right person to communicate with. Because if I've heard it, and what I mean by that is sometimes people's immaturity will cause them to throw something back in their face. Men are more prideful. The men that take care of home, the men that provide, the men that are there caring for you. All right, that's what I'm talking about. And you got young men that are going to grow up that need the guidance too. Don't forget that. A lot of times,
you be going left field with these conversations.
Listen, and keep up with me. I know your brain a little slow. A lot of times.
Now, here's where I find issue with Coach Lindsay. The very first time someone is disrespectful towards you can result in one of two things, depending on how you handle it in the moment. This man has just made a personal attack against her because he was not pleased that she questioned him on why he is not taking accountability for his inability to want to do the work to fix his own problems. And instead of her setting a clear boundary in this moment and making him understand that these types of personal attacks will not be accepted, she laughs it off and allows him the space and opportunity to continuously disrespect her and question her knowledge on every topic. This is something he's going to do very frequently for the rest of this video.
A little slow. A lot of times the men, I'm messing with you. A lot of times the men will have something thrown back in their face that I trusted you with, whether it's what I've been through in the past or whatever. And that's a communication breakdown itself, because you threw it in my face one time. You probably did it again when you got angry. Oh, I'm on my cycle or whatever. It don't matter. You threw it in my face. So when you threw it in my face.
And again, he takes another cheap shot, another low blow. And instead of her checking it in the moment, she just simply laughs it off yet again, which essentially gives him the permission to continue to take cheap shots whenever he doesn't like the direction that the conversation is going in.
So when you threw it in my face, it taught me that what a fool to come back and talk to you.
And I get that.
How foolish. You see, but as a man, though, here's the thing. As a man, we got to learn how to bridge the gap within that, because you have a lot of these relationships, and once again, We give a pass. Well, women say he ain't talking, he ain't saying nothing. I ain't got time for this. He want to keep all his emotions to himself, whatever. But did we ever look back on the fact that you did break that communication ground down too?
You did, or I did, or we did.
Which one is it?
That's what I'm asking.
Did you? Who
No, I'm
does?
asking you the question.
I'm just saying an immature
When
person.
communication breaks down, it isn't one-sided.
It's an immature person.
Regardless of who they are. If
What?
communication breaks down, it's not one-sided. It's two people have to participate in communication. And if there's a breakdown in communication, it's a we problem. It's not an I
So
or
if I
you.
lost a trust, would come in to tell you vulnerable aspects of my life, why keep telling you?
What do you?
This is why I said before that he isn't listening to participate in the conversation. He just simply is waiting for an opportunity to speak. Coach Lindsay has made it very clear that conversation breakdowns happen due to all parties participating in the conversation. And instead of him addressing this, he manages to drag the conversation way back to the question that she initially asked. Do you ever allow yourself to feel vulnerable? So think of a conversation as a line. He'll talk about, he'll walk the line until the conversation doesn't suit him, at which time he veers to the left and starts walking on a different path. And when that path gets a little uncomfortable, he veers back to the right onto the previous path. He's purposefully making the task of trying to have a conversation with him unnecessarily difficult.
I keep telling you.
What do you mean? Say that again.
Lorraine, I was molested as a child. As a young boy, I was molested multiple times. That's
This is another veer off the path. He's going left again.
why I'm very overprotective of kids. I have a big issue with that.
Okay.
I've been through a lot. I used to get abused a lot, and people would tell me that that's normal. I've seen a lot of young girls get abused. So I take the way pedos in the neighborhood operate. I've seen that a lot. And we would let them come around, the families coming back around and hang out. And in the community that I was raised in, a lot of people would ignore it like it didn't happen. And then you have the young boys who still do the same thing, and the little girl. So now you got traits and the consistency, but nobody deals with it. So when I bring it up to my lady, and I'm letting you know, and then you'll come at me and tell me, yeah, that's why you're a punk. Well, I've never been attracted
so
to
we're
a man.
talking
Listen,
about
the point I'm
we're
making is the
talking about
immaturity.
where that's abuse though.
No, no, no.
Yes, that is.
No, wait, hold up.
Absolutely.
What I said is, I said the immaturity.
It is. It's just abuse. Forget about immaturity.
What do you mean when you say the abuse? I'm talking about the conversational
What I'm saying to you,
aspect of it.
Cleavon, is if you're sharing something that is that horrific that has happened in your life, that is that vulnerable to you, and you're sharing. Hold on, let me finish.
It's horrific.
Of course, it's horrific.
Okay.
What happened to you? Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. If you had something so horrific happen and you are being vulnerable and sharing that with your partner, something that is so private and so hurtful and so damaging, that happened to you when you were a child, and your partner's response when she gets upset is to call you a punk, that is abuse.
Thank you.
That is a toxic relationship, and that is not what we're talking about right now.
So now, no. So now we're talking about some people are not mature enough to handle certain conversations.
It's not even a measure.
Now, I'm not being dismissive when I say this, because if this is a true story that he's telling right now, he has every right to be angry about it, and he has every right to be extra cautious about who he shares these things with. The issue with this story is, number one, it doesn't have much to do with the current direction that this conversation is going in. Like I said, the conversation is aligned, and every time the conversation doesn't go the way he wants it to go, he veers off the line and deflects and changes the subject, and then tries to come back to the vulnerability aspect, which is what we were initially supposed to be talking about. So if he wanted to bring this conversation into this, He should have started there when she first asked the question about being vulnerable. Well, are you being vulnerable with your partners? Yes. As a matter of fact, I can give you an example. I told my partner, blah, 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 happened to me when I was a child. And my partner said that, oh, you're a punk, you're this, you're that. Okay, we get it. But because he veered and deflected the conversation so much, now that we get to the story, number one, it seems like he seems to be very dismissive of his own abuse, which kind of makes me believe that he's not being honest about it. And he is only bringing it up now because the conversation is starting to make him look like a bad person, make him look like he's not interested in healthy relationship. The conversation is starting to make him seem as if he is the toxic one in the relationship. And with narcissists, it's all about how other people view you. It's all about getting outside validation. So he has to garner this sympathy from the audience or whoever he's talking to, whoever's listening. He needs to garner this sympathy from them so that they're now back on his side, because you guys were starting to look at me as if I was toxic and I can't have that. Number two, like I said, he's being dismissive of his own abuse, which makes me believe that he's not being completely honest about it, as if this may not be his lived experience. He only said it in the hopes of shaming the host and making her seem as if she is like whoever this person is that he's speaking about, who called him a punk when he shared this vulnerable moment in his life, or another woman from his past, and making the audience once again pity him. If the story is true, then he is long overdue for seeking professional help. And instead of him speaking with someone who can actually help him heal from this trauma, he's trauma dumping onto unsuspecting people in the hopes that they will somehow give him validation, pity, sympathy, and even fix the long term negative effects that these specific events had on his life experiences.
Sure enough, to handle certain
It's not even a
conversations.
measure of maturity at this point. That is abuse.
Okay.
It doesn't, I don't care how old you are.
Mhm.
You have to have a cognitive mind to know that that is hurtful and painful and ugly to do that to somebody.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we're not talking maturity. It doesn't even matter. It is just blatantly wrong to do that to somebody.
Thank you for saying that. And this happens quite often. So, Lorraine, I am a father. I made horrible choices. I made horrible choices. And the women I chose to have kids with, I can't see the kids. I've been fighting for each one of them since they've been babies.
Okay.
And the kids believe I've never.
Once again, we see him start off with giving the illusion of taking accountability, but he quickly returns to projection, blaming, and sympathy seeking.
Okay.
And the kids believe I've never wanted to be there. I've been fighting for the longest. I'm going back and forth with my older daughter right now, who says that I never tried to be there. And I try to show her all the pictures. I'm trying to show her receipts. And she says, I'm a psycho. You're a psycho. You're a weirdo. You're foul. And I asked her, why don't you go say something to your mom? My mom didn't do this.
How old is your daughter?
My daughter's 17. But she asks, why do you have my mom blocked? Because I don't want to fight with your mom. You have a phone. I'd rather talk to you. So now in her brain, I don't love her. I'm not trying to be there. You always at work. Sweetheart, if dad don't work, I can't pay bills. But she don't understand that because she never was around me as much. So this.
Now, remember earlier when I said we needed to stick a pin in this? Well, here's why I said we need to stick a pin in this. You heard what he just said in this moment. Now let's go back and listen to what he said before.
And so some men stay down. So my thing is, what for you as a man would get you to get up just for self? Forget about everybody else. Just for self.
It depends on what I have to work for. I myself had my daughter with me 24/7. So the first time years ago when I was homeless, I had my son with me. So that was like my push.
Yeah.
I had him around me, so that was my push. Cleavon's
And I
push.
can respect that.
While I had my daughter around me, that was my push. I cannot fail. But then I kept falling deeper. And when men fall deeper, they get more.
And this is why I keep saying that he continuously displays the narcissistic behavior of sympathy seeking, because first his daughter's with him 24/7. He was always around, but now somehow we're supposed to believe that his daughter needs proof of his presence, not reminders of times before, but proof that he actually loves her, wants to be there for her, and so on and so forth. So now we have to ask, which one of these stories is true? You veered off this conversation line so much that you can't even keep up with the things that you've said. Have you been there 24/7, or were you never there and need to find a reason to justify your absence? And what about your son? Because he never brings up his son as a reminder in this video, not to garner sympathy or to give praise, which makes me believe that he has never really spent much time with his son at all. The son has never been a consistent source of instant gratification. His mother has never been a great consistent source of instant gratification. So the narcissist, if you are not giving them the validation that they need on a consistent basis, then you're not useful. They're not even worthy of being brought up in conversation, which is what we see with him. He brought up his son one time, and that was just to let the audience know how great of a person he is. He was such a good dad that he had his son with him even when he was homeless and he was trying his best, but we never hear anything else about his son. So, which is it? Are you this great dad, this great guy who will go the distance and you will struggle for your kids through homelessness and you will make sure that they have everything they need? Or do you need to prove to them that you were actually around for them, even when they are not a great source of instant gratification? Which one is it? Because right now, the conversation line is all over the place.
Yeah.
So this is a vulnerable area where I'm telling you right now that I'm trying to fix. Now, when I bring this up to you, I'm really trying to get some type of support or some type of guidance on where to go because it's breaking me down as a man.
Okay.
I'm falling apart as a man because nobody addresses how I feel when I'm going through.
What kind of support in that scenario, if you were sharing that with your person, you were sharing your despair in that scenario in your life, what would be the support that you need?
What would you do?
I would ask you, what support do you need?
What would you think that I need? I'm bringing it up to you.
I don't know, because I'm not a man in that position dealing with those things.
So as a woman,
as a human being, whether it's man or woman, listen to me.
Oh,
This is communication.
This conversation is so frustrating. I'm not even a part of it, and it's frustrating just watching it. Now, this brings me back to the issues that I'm having with Coach Lindsay during this conversation. It's it's clear to me that she understands that this man lacks personal responsibility. And instead of her being supportive and telling him that she is not a mind reader and that he doesn't understand the difference between empathy and sympathy, and that she cannot do the work for him to fix his life, instead, she further enables him to feel entitled and justified and wallowing in the misery that he's living in, most of which he caused. It's misery that I would say is self inflicted. It's one thing to admit that you don't know exactly what you need help with, but you have to, at the very least, be willing to talk about where you have failed during your process of healing. You have to be able to talk about the actual steps that you've previously taken that probably didn't work. And in his case, it seems obvious that he hasn't taken any steps because he's always waiting for his problems to be figured out and solved by other people, or just disappear if he ignores them long enough. The only way for an individual to feel as if it's okay for them to just expect others to fix their problems is if others are always fixing their problems. So when they're sitting in front of someone who refuses to do the work for them, they take it as some sort of insult. To him, Coach Lindsay asking him what he needs help with, what kind of support do you need? It's a bad thing because he expects her to just figure it out and then do all the work for him. He has never been required to help himself. So, this idea of simply knowing what kind of support he needs, it probably sounds egregious to him.
I would ask you, I am so sorry that you're going through that. What do you need from me? I don't want to assume, I don't want to guess. Tell me what you need for support.
Obviously nothing.
Because here's the thing, why is it obvious?
Obviously nothing, because
But
I just
why?
brought it up to you. You're a woman.
Okay.
You understand what's going on with this girl. I don't know what's going on. I brought it up to you as a woman,
Yes.
as a mother.
Okay.
This is why I said that there's nothing about this conversation that is a gendered issue. Because even if Mr. Funches were a woman talking about having these issues with her daughter, that doesn't mean that another woman would just automatically empathize with her situation or understand what thoughts or emotions her daughter is having. Believe it or not, women are not all the same, just like men are not all the same. I, as a woman, have more in common as far as my personality and my emotions. I have more in common with my father than I ever have with my mother. Not all women are nurturing or motherly when it comes to children, and not all women understand the pain of a teenage girl who had to grow up with parents like Mr. Funches. So when Coach Lindsay is asking him what type of support he needs in this situation, this is his opportunity to take a step back and evaluate what's really going on in his life. He needs to have a clear understanding of the goal that he wants to reach and all of the previous steps that he's taken in order to achieve this goal. He needs to have an understanding of the part that he played and how he wants to make amends with the people he may have potentially hurt along the way. If he is truly seeking to fix this issue that he has with his daughter, he needs to take responsibility and own all parts of it that he played. You need to lead from the front and understand that it is up to him to mend this relationship that he broke, or leave the girl alone. Because at this point, he seems to only be keeping in contact. That way he always has a sob story source. It started with his daughter's mother, but now that the mother's blocked him, he's picking up where he left off with her mother, with her, his daughter. He is moving on to a new supply. And this is typical narcissistic behavior.
Woman,
Yes.
as a mother,
Okay.
that can understand.
But that doesn't tell me what you need for
So
support.
obviously, I need to figure it out on my own. You see how I just shut down on you?
No, it doesn't make sense.
No,
But
it don't make sense to you, but this is a common issue. That's what I'm trying
but
to tell
I'm
you.
asking you that you're shutting down why?
Because I'm looking for you to actually help me figure it out. And
Translation: you keep asking me how I'm going to help myself, and you won't feel sorry for me, and you didn't join in every time I gave you the opportunity to bash my exes and my children. You won't coddle me, and I don't like that. That's it. But you can't say that out loud.
Figure it out. And you're saying, well, what do you need from me?
Yeah.
And I'm saying, well, you know what? I'm telling you what's going on. And I just told you, you're a woman, you're a mother. I need support. I need guidance.
But what
how do I figure this out?
You need
For the narcissist, when all else fails, talk loud, talk fast, and point out something obvious. He is giving the illusion that he's taking accountability. I need support. I told you what was happening. My daughter has a vaginal canal and you have a vaginal canal. I told you this and I told you that. And yeah, he did tell her a lot. He said a lot of things. He fed her a whole lot of word salad. What he failed to do was answer the question and let her know what type of support he is seeking so that he can help himself to fix his life.
You need as support because you're coping with it as a man. I can't assume.
This is not a gendered issue. This is a failed communication and manipulation issue.
What you need is as far as support.
Okay, so
I can have an opinion about it. I can go to toe with baby mama and all this other stuff, but that doesn't mean I'm supporting you.
Aren't you a coach?
No, it's not about me being a coach.
And again, with the disrespectful personal attacks, had she checked this behavior in the beginning, when he did it the first time, we wouldn't be seeing it being used as a deflection tactic. Granted, we probably wouldn't have gotten this far into their interview or conversation, but at least he would have learned that you can't just go around attacking people this way, especially if you are coming to this person seeking their help and support. But I digress.
About me being a coach. I am a coach, yes, and communication is very important. When I'm going through things in my life personally, when I'm going through it, I appreciate if my partner were to say to me, what can I do? What do you need? Let me tell you what I need. Let me express it, because you could try to do everything under the sun that you think that I need, and it ain't it.
Okay.
So unless we talk about that, you can tell me what you're going through, that it has to deal with women and I'm a woman and your young daughter and all that stuff, but it still doesn't tell me you emotionally, what kind of support do you need from me? How do you want me to be involved, or how do you want me to take a step back? Because I'll tell you what, when you assume things, when people are going through things in life, you could step in when they don't want you to.
Okay, so
you could take a step back when you don't want you to.
What would you suggest? Because here it is as a man, I don't even know what to do. Are you here? Listen to me, because you keep asking me the same question.
But why can't you answer it? How am I supposed to know?
Some people don't know how to tell you this, and you keep asking a question.
How am I, as a person who is not in that situation, how am I supposed to know how to support you when you don't even know how to support yourself?
So obviously, I don't need to talk to you about it. Did you just catch that?
No, you're not catching
what
I'm
saying. Well, you're not being patient enough to say, let me take a step back then.
Is that the support you need?
No, it's something that you need to dwell on. It's something that you need to take a step back.
And again, he's making it very clear that he does not want to do any of the actual work to help himself. He wants an enabler, and he wants the ability to trauma dump so that he can make himself look like the victim. He wants her to take a step back and figure out what he needs and how to make him happy and comfortable in his situation. And I'll just throw this in there. If by chance that she was actually considering doing anything to help him, what kind of help does he expect to get after he has spent so much time belittling and disrespecting her throughout this entire conversation?
Well, no. It's something that you need to take a step back and stop asking. You're dealing with a man.
Yes.
So sometimes you need to take a step back and stop asking the same question.
This has absolutely nothing to do with him being a man. This has everything to do with him displaying narcissistic behaviors and not wanting to do anything to help himself. He is simply playing the victim and waiting for someone else to hold his hand and walk him through while they fix his problems.
Okay.
Because it's a sensitive subject. We all process it different. Listen, some things are more sensitive than others.
Okay.
So this is my child. I just told you, my child was stripped from.
And now he's veering off the conversation line again.
I told you my relationship is strained. I told you I've been fighting to be there. Okay. And now there's a fight with my child.
What do you want your person to do?
Be supportive.
And what does that look like for you?
I don't know.
So then how is somebody supposed to support you? It wouldn't be, do you want? Let me give you some examples.
There would not be a conversation no more. There would not be no more conversation.
What he's essentially alluding to is that since you have no plans on validating him in his mess, he is going to go find a new supply for validation. He is going to find someone else to coddle him and hold his hand and woo 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 him and pat him on the back while he complains about how the world is just against him and there's absolutely nothing he can do about it, and you need to fix this for me because I can't help myself.
You would shut down when somebody asking you how to support you?
You're asking me a question instead of, I just gave you different things as a man talking.
You gave me what's going on. It didn't go over my head.
I gave you what's going on. I gave you what I expected of you, and you didn't hear.
No, you didn't. What was the expectation?
Yes, I did.
What was the expectation?
Yes, I did.
What was the expectation?
You did.
There are three things that I want to point out that he did in this very short space of the conversation. He belittled her, then he gaslit her, then he skirted past taking personal accountability. It's not hard to miss these things in conversation, especially when you're talking to someone that you actually care about, because you're not looking for these specific behaviors. Most people aren't even trying to notice these behaviors because they just want to help whoever the person is that they're talking to because they care. They sympathize with them. So they just want to help. So it's really easy for the average person to be manipulated in situations like this. And it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. If you are talking to someone who presents manipulative, narcissistic behaviors the way Mr. Funches is doing in this conversation, you can easily be manipulated by them. You can be manipulated into validating all of their bad behaviors. You can be manipulated into enabling them to continue doing these bad behaviors. It's really easy to be manipulated no matter what your gender is. Had he said these things to the average person, man, woman, or they, we could see how and why they would feel pressured into just giving in and taking on his burdens. We can also see how they would even blame themselves for the breakdown in this conversation because Mr. Funches makes it seem as if you are not the only cause of the breakdown in the conversation, but because you have not done anything to fix the problems that he created in his own life. You are somehow at fault for saying you care about him, but not doing the work to help him feel better mentally and emotionally. It's your fault. So now you're sitting back trying to replay this whole word salad in your brain and figure out, well, what did I do? You just been gaslit into taking the blame for all of his problems. Now you feel obligated to do something to fix it.
What's the expectation?
You didn't hear me.
Tell me what it was.
You didn't hear me.
You didn't say it.
Yes, I did.
What was it?
Play back and you'll hear what I said.
The only thing you said was, I need your support.
No, I didn't.
Yes,
no, I didn't.
It was. What was?
So now this is why we have breakdowns. Listen to me.
You didn't say it.
You're so gun-ho. What do you need? Why aren't you telling me? What is this? Well, you're not telling me anything. And I sat here and told you and you didn't hear it.
You didn't say what you needed. You said
we just watched gaslighting in real time. Just an FYI, I have watched, rewatched, and analyzed this video at least 5 times. And I promise you, he not once made a statement that would allude or hint to what he needs as support from another person, not even in the slightest. He gave her a lot of word salad, which could make you think you missed something, but you didn't miss anything. Anything that came out of his mouth never told her what he needed in by way of support. He just talked and talked and deflected. He gaslit, he belittled. He did all the things except for laid out how he needs to be supported. He never told her what type of support he needs. Not once. This is what gaslighting looks like in real time. He is essentially trying to make her believe that what she knows to be true is not true. He wants her to think that she is failing mentally because she's not keeping up with the conversation and she's not listening and she didn't hear what he said, when in actuality, he never said anything. I promise you, I've watched this interview many, many times, and he not once said anything about the support that he needed to help himself to fix his situation.
You didn't hear
You
it.
didn't say what
So
you needed. You
therefore,
said you
we
don't
don't
know.
have nothing else to talk about.
You literally said, I don't know.
No. I did say I don't know. But once again, when you play it back, you'll hear what I said, but you didn't hear it. And this is where the deaf ear issue come in.
You didn't
So this is
say
a conversation
anything.
I would never have with you again.
You didn't say anything.
I'm cool.
You're in your feelings.
No. You didn't hear me. You didn't hear me.
Again, this is gaslighting in real time. If you've never seen gaslighting before, you just witnessed it now. He is trying his best to make this woman doubt something that she knows for a fact is not true. Thankfully, she didn't fall for it and continued to give him pushback. But could you imagine how this tactic would work on the average person who is not looking for this behavior when they're having a conversation with someone like this?
No. You didn't hear me. You didn't hear me. I'm tired of repeating myself.
You're in your feelings.
So why did I bring this up? What did I just say again? I told you it was what? What was it? It say what?
Are you asking me because you need to remember yourself?
No, I remember what I said, but I told you it's a sensitive subject.
Okay.
You didn't hear that.
Of course I did.
You didn't hear what I said I needed from you because you kept saying.
You didn't say what you needed. You said only thing you said you needed was support. That was the only thing you said you needed.
Okay, that's all you heard.
Well, what else did you say, Cleveland?
If you say I didn't understand you, I didn't get it, say I didn't hear you. Don't keep saying that.
No, I heard you, though.
So
I'm
what
not
did I
going to
say
tell
then?
you I didn't hear you when I heard you.
So you didn't hear what I said because I was specific on what I said. See how we're going back and forth? Because
His refusal to state exactly what he needs and putting the onus onto her to go back and look for the statements that he claims he said that we all know don't exist is diabolical. It's diabolical.
see how we're going back and forth? Because you want to be right. You want to be right so bad that I sat here and told you I said it. If you didn't catch it, say I didn't hear
But
it.
I've also asked you, what did you say? I've asked you that several times now.
You said,
what did you say?
What did you say?
I'm asking you.
Now I feel like you're antagonizing me, so I'm going to shut
Lord
down.
Jesus. You got an answer for everything.
No,
you know
yes,
what it
it
is?
is.
You know why? Because you want to state.
This is projection. This is what projection looks like. Now he's trying to turn it back on her to make it seem as if she's the one who is making the conversation break down.
In it.
No, it's not about standing because take ownership in what I told you.
We can't talk over each other.
But take ownership in what I told you, though.
I am taking ownership.
No, you're not.
How? Okay.
This was another subject that we briefly spoke on about before, which is people not creating change out of fear and finding comfort in their mess. He understands very clearly that his sob stories give him the validation and comfort that he seeks from others. So he would rather find comfort sitting in his problems that he knows than to take the chance and do the work that it's going to take for him to heal and gain true happiness so that he can learn how to validate himself. He would rather be able to give you the sob story so that he can play the victim and you will coddle and woo him and do all the work for him so he doesn't have to do anything. He wants that instant gratification and he doesn't want to actually do anything to help himself.
No, you're not.
How? Okay, tell
No,
me
you're
how
not.
I'm not.
Because I was specific and said I brought it to you because of this.
Yeah.
Did you hear that?
Of this.
You
What
didn't
was
hear
this?
it.
Is this?
Say I didn't hear
I
it.
don't think you remember.
Say I didn't hear it. Just say I didn't hear
say
it.
that, Cleavon.
Lorraine, just say I didn't hear it.
No.
I didn't catch it.
No.
You see how prideful you want to be?
No, because I know
And
I didn't
that's
say
where
that.
that's where the communication breaks
You're
right
being
there.
prideful and you're being emotional.
No,
And
no,
we
no,
cannot
no.
have a rational conversation if you're getting overly sensitive.
Don't bring it to me about being overly sensitive when I'm sitting here telling you I brought it up. If you didn't hear it, say I didn't hear it.
What is your problem?
Now, I can agree with him. He's not being overly sensitive, but he is being emotional and prideful. He's being emotional because he's frustrated that his manipulation tactics aren't working in this conversation. They always worked in his favor before, but now he's sitting with someone who isn't afraid to give a little pushback. And that pushback is forcing him to take responsibility for himself, and he doesn't like it. He's not being sensitive. He's essentially getting angry. So again, we get more belittling and more gaslighting, more projection, more word salad. We also see Coach Lindsay getting more frustrated, trying to deal with his immature behavior. This conversation is starting to go into a never ending circle. And the more she attempts to force him to take accountability, the faster he runs around the loop. It's at this point where she should have laid out the issues that he has with his accountability and ended the conversation, because you cannot force change onto anyone who doesn't want to do the work to make that change happen.
I'm telling you, I brought it up. If you didn't hear it, say I didn't hear it.
What is your problem right now?
I'm making a point.
But what is the point?
You want to be right.
That's your point.
You want to be right.
And what do I want to be right about?
This is projection. It's absolutely projection.
About instead of being humble enough to take a step back, you want to be.
That's gaslighting.
No,
what you did is gaslight.
No,
yep.
baby. When you replay this,
while he has been gaslighting her, this particular instance, it's not gaslighting, it's projection. He is absolutely projecting his not wanting to admit to his faults onto her, because now he's trying to convince her that she's the one who's not listening. She's the one who is breaking down this conversation. Everything is now her fault, when in actuality, we've watched the video and we watch you spiral and crash out. It's you, it's not her. This is projection.
When you replay this, you will hear exactly what I said.
That right there is gaslighting.
And if you didn't hear it, say I didn't hear it.
Okay, moving on.
You see how you discard it?
I'm not discarding it, but we're talking in circles.
It's okay.
We keep going back and forth.
You want to be right, so
you brought up a sensitive subject. It ignited some emotion in you. So now you're in an emotional state of mind. Okay.
If you say so.
It absolutely, because you're gaslighting me right now.
You again. No, you see, listen, it's not gaslighting. I brought it up and I told you what I needed from you, what I expected. I brought that up.
What did you expect, Cleavon?
I'm not going to repeat it.
Because you don't know.
No, I do know. I know exactly what I said.
Why can't you answer the question then?
Because I choose not to. Because it's something that I want to talk to you about.
But that's silly.
No, to you it's not.
To me, it's silly.
Okay. It's silly to you because you want to be right, and we'll.
What do I want to be right about?
Next subject.
What am I trying to be right about?
It's nothing. It's nothing.
But you can't make points and not be able to.
That's the most honest thing he said throughout this entire conversation. It's nothing. And it is nothing because he's the one who diminished it down to nothing. He took what could have been a great opportunity for healing and turned it into a failed manipulation tactic. And now he wants us all to act as if the last 30 minutes just didn't happen. So now it's nothing.
It's nothing.
But you can't make points and not be able to fill in the gap.
See, once again,
what
when
am
I
I
brought
trying
up the
to be
thing
right
about how
about?
a man feels,
What am I trying to be right about?
right about standing on business for yourself. You're not trying to understand anything. What is it?
I am
How
trying to
can I
understand.
help you?
Okay, so
How can I help you?
Yeah. What kind of support do you need? Why is that a bad question?
Why was it brought up to you before? And I made the point.
Because you said you need support.
What else did I say?
That's what you said.
You didn't hear it.
You said, I'm going through this with my daughter. My daughter feels these things about me. Her mother's saying these things.
Now, I'm no body language expert, but the look on his face looks like him trying to figure out how he can manipulate this conversation into making him look more like the victim and garner sympathy from anyone who's watching. I'm just going to throw that out there.
That are slandering me. Now my daughter doesn't want anything to do with me. It's making me feel down and depressed.
Why did I bring it up to you, though?
Because it's a sensitive subject for you.
Why did I say I brought it up to you? If you don't remember, say I don't remember.
You brought it up because we're talking about sensitive subjects and being vulnerable.
I'm making a point, and once again,
what is your point?
I didn't hear I don't remember what you said.
Instead of just playing the game, just say what you said then, Cleavon, to make your point.
Ain't nothing said then.
It is so silly what you're doing.
So why do women walk away?
You are stuck in your mind that you want to believe that nobody wants to help you. That is your belief system.
No, it's not.
You're set in that.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No.
When all else fails, change the topic. Just change the subject. I can't pull at your heartstrings because you refuse to join me in my pity party. I can't belittle or disrespect you into enabling me. I failed to gaslight you because you won't question yourself. So let's just talk about something else. Why do women walk away? There has to be something I can do to make you feel bad about yourself so that I don't have to keep listening to you tell me that I'm responsible for my own happiness and I'm responsible for fixing the problems that I created in my life. So, because you won't do the work for me, I'm just going to change the topic. And that's exactly what he is trying to do in this moment.
You're set in that.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's
so when
not.
a woman is sitting before you and says, "How can I support you?" You can't even answer that question.
I brought up why. Once again, though. So why do women stay? Oh God. Why do women stay?
Let's go back to it.
Why do women stay? Why do women stay?
We can't go back to why do women stay because this was never a conversation that they were having. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Stay as long as they do.
I wouldn't stay in a situation like that. The one you just painted.
You just painted.
It's too hostile.
Because it's hostile for you because you're making it hostile. And I say as a man, I'm just going to...
And again, he's projecting because she's not the one who's making this conversation hostile. He is. She's simply trying to get him to express what type of support he needs to help himself.
Shut down. I don't want to bring it back up. I don't want to bring it back up.
So you're going to go off on a woman who asks you, how can she support you?
No, because you didn't hear what I said. You missed all the points because you want to be right.
Yes or no, did you say that you needed support? Yes or no?
I did say that part. But that's all you stuck on.
But that's the thing that's most important for you.
So why did I bring it up to you as a woman?
Because we were talking about support. We were talking about how men don't get support. Were we not talking about that?
You didn't.
The look on his face tells me that he completely understands what she's saying and he agrees that what she's saying is true, but he's going to die on this hill that she's projecting and she's the one making this conversation hostile and that she didn't hear what he said. He's going to die on this hill. He will not let this go.
Hear what I said.
Were we not talking about that? And you said, after you gave that situation in your life, that one thing you need is support. So we're back on the topic of support. Is that not what was heard and what was said?
You admit that that's all you stuck on?
Well, because I was asking you, how do you need support? And for some reason, you can't fathom somebody asking you that question. So if you need support and that woman comes to you and says, how can I support you? And it makes you blow up
It didn't make me blow up.
because you don't have an answer.
No, I don't have an answer. Because
Okay,
I told
but
you
she
why I
can't
brought it up
figure
to
that
no, no,
out
no.
for you.
I'm going to say it again really quick.
Okay, go ahead.
I said I don't know what type of support I need, but I brought it up to you for this reason.
And this is why I said that this is not a gender issue. They are painting this situation as if all men and women are exactly the same and will act and react exactly the same. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. It is completely possible for a woman to be sitting in the space where Mr. Funches is sitting, and for a man to be sitting in the space where Coach Lindsay is sitting. This is not a gender issue. This is an issue of manipulation, lying, narcissistic behavior. And that's it. This has absolutely nothing to do with gender.
I brought it up to you for this reason.
For what reason?
You as a woman, you're a woman. And I assume maybe you have some insight or idea on what I can do or how I can handle this.
But what if I don't?
If you don't, I don't know what to do.
I did say that, Cleavon. I said I'm not a man in this situation. You're speaking from reference point of being a man experiencing that. Yes or no?
But as a man bringing it up to you, as a man bringing it up to you, and I say this is what why I brought it up to you.
But I, as a woman, am going to experience what you're going through differently. What I might need, regardless of me being a woman or a man, just me as an individual, what I might need from somebody might be different than what you might need. And instead of me assuming the kind of support you need, I'm going to ask you, what kind of support do you need?
Okay, listen.
Why is that bad?
Lorraine,
And he's trapped her in another word salad, in another loop, in another circle. He is going to drag this out as long as possible just to waste time, frustrate her, and ruin any chances that he gets for taking the opportunity to get support for the situation that he's in.
Right.
Tell me why that's a bad question.
I brought it up. I just said, what did I just say? Please repeat what I just said. Please.
I don't know what you're saying. Literally don't know what you're saying.
So why was it brought up?
Now, mind you, he just sat here for the last 5 minutes telling her to admit that she doesn't know. She doesn't know. She doesn't know. And now she finally says what he's been begging her to say for the last 5 minutes. And he completely skirts past it, which just lets me know that what he's doing is trying to manipulate her into doing the work for him. He doesn't care whether or not she admits that she knows what he's trying to say or not. He just wants her to look like the bad guy who's coming down on him and trying to add more pain to whatever suffering he thinks he's going through at the hands of outside sources.
Why did I say I brought it up to you?
I thought I've answered this question 5 times at least.
Why did I just say I brought it up? You're negating from the question. Why did I say I brought it up?
I don't know anymore.
Okay. So why do women stay? As long as they
That's why you brought it up?
No. I'm changing the subject. I'm changing the subject. The point I was making is I made that point of how we get to a point where we shut down and how we sit there and go through that debate back and forth and how we don't hear each other as well.
Okay.
That went way over your head.
Way over my
way
head.
over your head.
All the way over.
So bringing it back once again, since we had the back and forth, I want to be clear again.
Okay.
I brought it up to you because I assume as a woman, you probably have some insight on how to deal with this, how I can handle it, or what my daughter may be going through as well. Because
but if that's not my experience, I'm not going to have insight.
It's okay.
Yeah, just because I'm a woman, it doesn't mean I'm going to understand your situation.
Listen to me. Instead of going through the question of how can I help you, if you say something, listen.
Isn't that what you want?
No. Absolutely not. That's not what he wanted. He wants a lot of things, but getting actual support to help himself, is not what he wanted. He wants to be coddled. He wants validation. He wants pity. He wants you to tell him that even though he created this bad situation for himself, that it's not his fault. He wants you to do the work to make him happy being pathetic. He wants to be able to say that he's smarter and better than you. He does not want you to help guide him towards a better version of himself. So, no, that's not what he wants.
I want you to say something to say, I don't know what to do. I can definitely be here for support. I can be here. But you said, how can I support you?
Yeah.
Some people.
You want her to say that she's there to support you, but you don't want her to support you. Like, make that make sense.
People don't know how to translate the direct support they need. Because a person may need financial support and they may never tell you they need financial support.
If you're in a situation, any situation that you're in your life, that's a crisis for you, and someone says, how can I help you? You have answers as to what you need. You do.
You do.
You might say, I need a shoulder to cry on. I need you maybe to try to talk to my daughter. I need to see if whatever it may be, you know what you need.
But I just told you what I needed.
But you just said you didn't know what you needed. You did say that.
Why did I bring it up?
More than you realize.
Lorraine, why did I bring it up? We're going to stop there. Just all I keep asking is the same question.
No idea.
And you don't want to answer it.
I am trying to answer, but you seem to have other answers in your head that was never said.
Again, I'm no body language expert, but his body language is saying one thing while his mouth is saying something else. At this point, he understands that she's on to his manipulation, but he's fully dedicated to die with the lie.
You seem to have other answers in your head that was never said. Okay. You want me to read your mind, like you want me to figure out the support you need, and I can't do that because I'm not a magician.
Figuring out the support. It's are you hearing the person? Some people,
loud and clear.
Some people don't hear it. Some people don't hear it. They hear certain parts of a conversation.
Do you hear it?
I'm making a point that some people hear a certain part of the conversation.
Are you going to answer the question? Do you hear it? Do you even hear yourself?
I know exactly what's being said.
Okay, what's being said?
What do you need?
Okay. What's wrong with that question?
How do we get people to get to a point where they can express that?
And again, she asks him the question, and instead of answering it, he deflects.
What I need.
I'm asking you when I say, how can I support you? Why is that a bad question to ask?
It's not a bad question.
Then why are you so worked up?
I'm not worked up.
It's not even about him being worked up over her asking the question. It's the fact that he is actively doing and saying whatever he can to not give an answer to it. This is manipulation at its best.
You're gaslighting.
And now he's going to use words that he just learned from her, and he's not even using it properly. She's not gaslighting him. She's asking him what he needs, and he is actively choosing not to answer the question.
Gaslighting? Oh my God.
At this point, it seems like Coach Lindsay has completely given up on having a decent conversation with him because she knows that he's playing in her face. But instead of her just simply ending the conversation, she's leaning into the games that he's playing. And while it may seem fun to her, to those watching, it's very annoying, especially to those who have to live daily in situations like this, dealing with people like Mr. Funches. They are trying to watch this video so that they can see how to handle conversations with people like him. And instead of her giving us a good example of how to interact with him, she is leaning into his delusion and allowing him to play in her face. And this is not helping anyone. It's not helping her, it's not helping him, and it's not helping any of us who are watching their interaction.
Gaslighting.
That's gaslighting? Oh my God.
You're trying to gaslight me right now.
But I'm not gaslighting you. I am asking you because I'm confused as to what got you so worked up. From the beginning, what I heard you say was, okay, let me tell you what I heard you say, since you don't think I'm hearing you.
Go for it.
Okay. You shared two very painful experiences with your life. One, things that have happened to you and occurred to you when you were a child. And then you shared some things that are going on with your child and your and her mother.
Yes.
Okay. In both of those scenarios, what you have emphasized was that you didn't get the support you needed. Okay. So when you can say with such clarity that I did not get the support I needed, that means you knew the support that you needed, because you can't say you didn't get it if you didn't know what it was.
Wait, hold on.
So now when I ask you, what support do you need from me? You can't tell me you don't know.
You didn't get the support, but you know what support you need. Ain't that a slap in the face?
No, it's not a slap in the face. It's absolutely true. It's the point of you all having this entire conversation.
Huh?
You just said that. You didn't get the support you needed, but you know the support you need.
Because you said I didn't.
Because how can you know you didn't get something if you didn't know that you needed it?
Get it. So when you use that language, I didn't get, that means there was something in your mind that you needed to get. So you knew what that list was, is what I'm saying. So when you say I didn't get the support I needed, if you didn't have a clue what that was, you wouldn't know that you didn't get it. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Nope. You're gaslighting.
That is not gaslighting.
Look, okay, so look, I did, it was a purposeful debate. I did that on purpose.
Okay.
He completely understands what she's saying. He knows what type of support he needs. What he won't do is admit it, because if he admits it, then there's going to be an expectation set on him to actually do something about it. Just like what she said, you don't know that you need something if you don't know that you need it. But if he continues to play ignorant, then no one will expect him to fix his problems. And chances are someone's going to come along and attempt to do all the work for him. He's going to manipulate them and gaslight them and project onto these people, to the point where they start to question themselves, feel sorry for him, and then do whatever it takes to make him happy in fixing whatever the situation is that they believe is causing him pain, not realizing that he is the one causing the pain, so that he can have the sob story, so that when you no longer are a viable supply for him, he can take the same problem to the next person and have them be his supply. Granted, the problem will never be solved because the healing has to come from within. But at least he's going to get the coddling and attention and validation that he's essentially seeking.
Okay, so look, I did, it was a purposeful debate. I did that on purpose.
Okay, but now we're already at 150.
I know, but I did that on purpose. So because and I did it on purpose.
With that.
I did it on purpose because
why?
This is one of your biggest issues in the home front.
Which
is one person make a point, one person didn't hear. We go back and forth. We had a debate, we in a strong arm. Opposed to, how do we get to a point where we back down to understand each other?
You have to get out of your feelings.
If it's a sense, okay, so this now,
in
this
order
is a
for
real
us
talk.
To be able to have real, tangible conversations, we have to get out of our emotional state of mind.
True, but if it's a sensitive subject, you got to walk a person through it too.
You can't walk a person through it when they're hysterical about something, when they're emotionally charged. Okay, it's very difficult to have conversations when people are emotionally ignited. That conversation got you really ignited emotionally.
To you.
That was my experience, yes. And so therefore, no matter what I said at that point, it wasn't going to get anywhere because you've already made up your mind. And you already have a narrative in your head that women don't support. So it wouldn't have mattered what I said, because your belief system is that no matter what I would say to you, it was not going to be sufficient.
When we have a level of support or respect amongst one another, regardless of how hysterical I get, I'm going to be quiet enough to hear you.
That's not true. That's not how I experience you. You don't know how to do that.
You didn't experience that.
No.
It's going to be really hard to convince people that you are now the smartest person in the room when you have been feeding us your ignorance for the last 45 minutes. None of his manipulation tactics worked. So instead of him admitting to the fact that he failed to manipulate her, he's going to say that he purposefully did all of these things just to prove a point about how horrible she is. It's almost as if he's going for the last ditch effort to attempt to manipulate. Oh, well, this was all my plan. I played stupid on purpose to see how you would handle it. I played games and tried to make you think a certain way, even though I was emotional about my very real problems and didn't want to take accountability for my actions or admit that I was at fault for anything. I only said those things that I said to get under your skin. Yeah, no, we're not falling for that. And I'm a little disappointed in Coach Lindsay for not calling him out each and every time he did and said things like this. When you to lean into playing along with manipulative people, you're not helping the situation. If anything, you're teaching them how to step their game up so that they can try different manipulation tactics in the future to manipulate those people who aren't afraid to call them out on their BS. The second he refused to speak on what he needed in terms of support, this this should have been the focus of this conversation. And every time he strayed away from pointing out what it is that he needed to help himself, she should have brought the conversation directly back to this point. But instead, she allowed him to lie and deflect, so much so that the whole point of the conversation is now lost. I guarantee you that half of you watching this video right now don't remember where we started in this conversation. Now they're both scrambling around trying to find middle ground so that we can just simply end this conversation because it's not going anywhere.
How to do that?
You didn't experience that.
No, I never
So
deal with
obviously, I
you.
don't respect you.
I think you respect me.
I respect you.
I just think you have a hard time getting out of your feelings.
No, because you
Yeah,
don't
do.
know me.
You get worked up too easy.
I do
Yeah,
in your brain.
in my experience.
In your brain.
From my experience.
But I know you get worked up very
Of
fast
course,
and
yes, I
get
do.
irritable very fast.
I can
And
get
it's got
worked
to
up.
always go your way
But
very
I can
fast.
own that. I can own that.
You can own that. But it's
Yeah.
until we actually get in that situation and scenario for it to be shown. That's a whole nother
But I
ballgame.
can own that. I'm a person who takes ownership. I'm never going to say that there aren't conversations that don't ignite me or trigger me. I'm not going to say that's from your mind. I'm going to say, no, that's true. I can get worked up. I'm not afraid to acknowledge and be and taking ownership of self. Yeah, I'm human. Yeah, there's going to be some conversations that will trigger me. Absolutely.
What he doesn't understand is that people who are not out to manipulate others don't have a problem taking responsibility for their own actions. And people like him who are always seeking validation from others are going to do and say whatever it is that they need to do and say to get that validation that they need. They need their supply to stick around. So he doesn't understand that to be human is to err. And when you mess up, that is a very common human experience. And instead of him accepting the fact that he has flaws, he would rather play the victim, lie, and manipulate other people into doing whatever it is that he needs them to do so that he is more comfortable and happy wallowing in his mess. So no, he doesn't understand what it means to take personal responsibility for your actions.
Normal Cleavon, if I were in that real true situation, Cleavon. The normal Cleavon, if
what
I
do you
was
have to say in conclusion?
In conclusion, if I was in that real situation, I'm in a position where I know how to digress the situation and just kind of like, okay, I understand that you're on a get.
He absolutely does not know how to digress a situation. that string of words is just funny to me. Um, Number one, he is not very clear on the meaning of the words that he's been using throughout this entire interview. And he will deflect a conversation as much as possible when it doesn't go his way. He doesn't he doesn't digress. He deflects. He changes the topic when he's not getting his way, when he's not getting the outcome that he desires. He will completely ignore everything that's being said and try to change the topic onto something that he can manipulate. No, he does not digress. He lies and deflects.
That's me. That's my conversation with my partner.
Okay.
But what we just experienced is what goes on in the home quite often. And it's always somebody trying to, well, you didn't get this, you didn't get that. No, tell me this, tell me that. And we haven't gotten to a point where somebody got to back it down.
You just haven't been in a space where a woman actually asks you questions and you can allow her to ask you those questions and give her the answers. That's not your experience.
But I don't
so you
deal
don't
with
even know
toxic.
how to respond to that.
You missed the whole, Lord, I just bit my tongue. You missed the whole ship. Once again.
And again, he's belittling her and not acknowledging that she understands exactly what's going on with him in this conversation. And once again, she does not check the behavior.
As since I would have dealt with somebody where I would have shut down. In present,
it breaks my heart that me as a woman can say to you, what can I do to support you? And that works you up. That you're not even able to give an answer for that.
This was a show. This was a show. This was a show.
That's sad to me.
No, he's right. It was a show. He tried his best to gaslight and manipulate you. And when it doesn't work, now he wants to say that he was doing it on purpose to try to prove some kind of point to you. When in reality, he absolutely was being manipulative in this conversation in real time. It was not him trying to prove a point, it was him trying to gaslight and manipulate you. And once again, she knows that's what he's doing and she doesn't call out the behavior, which makes him believe that it's okay for him to continue to do it. In this moment, once again, this is another form of gaslighting. This is what gaslighting looks like in real time.
You still stuck on that. Once again, it was a show, ladies and gentlemen, to make a point. But Lorraine is still worked up, and I understand it.
And now he's projecting, saying that she's the one who's been worked up. And it has not been her worked up this entire conversation. It's been him the entire time. And how do we know? Because he just admitted that he was doing it. He tried to make us believe that he's doing it on purpose. But either way, he admits to doing it. He is the problem.
It's not first of the month, though. Okay. At
all right, got you. So what would you like to say in conclusion?
I would like to say, well, we got to conclude now. It's over.
In conclusion, I thank you all for watching once again, because we got to get to a point where we heal a lot of homes and a lot of relationships so that we don't keep losing, because a lot of our children lose in the end as well. The children lose, and remember what your choice is at the end, like kids are watching you. So we have to get to a point where we regulate our emotions like we did today. We have to get to a point where we don't gaslight like we did today. We have to get to a point where you mature within yourself in whatever that level of healing is, so that we don't have this back and forth. Because I don't want you to be in your feelings all the time.
I am not in my feelings. You little sensitive ass mofo. All right, well, we kind of talked about it, but I guess we didn't. But there's always some nuggets coming from the Lorraine and Cleavon show. So until next time, please don't forget to hit the subscription button and give us a thumbs up. Ciao. See you.
Aside from the bulk of this conversation being very uncomfortable, it was also pretty interesting to see narcissistic behavior in real time. Now, again, I'm not saying that this man is a narcissist, but his behavior in this setting was very narcissistic. We got to watch how easy it can be to get caught up in the web of someone who refuses to take accountability. And we saw just how easy it can be for a controlling person to chip away at the self esteem of someone with belittling comments and cheap shots. I seriously hope that this was just him play acting for maximum views. But if not, I hope that he gets the help that he truly needs, and that he steps outside of his selfish behavior and start to do the work for himself and not just trauma dumping for attention and pity, because this was sad. It really was. It was so sad. But like I said, we got to see narcissistic behavior in real time and how it actually looks outside of the textbooks.
And twist myself at the spine.